Hello everyone, my name is Sunji Venkatesh, and today we're going to be looking at SAT Math Advanced Math. We're going to be focusing on nonlinear equations in one variable and system of equations in two variables, and as always we're going to be looking at a set of 5 problems that are at the hardest difficulty. So let's get started with our first question. So our first question says, what is the positive solution to a given equation? And the equation is 2 times the absolute value of 4 minus x plus 3 times the absolute value of 4 minus x is equal to 25. So here's how we're going to approach this problem right here. We're going to take the absolute value of x as 4 minus x as a variable, say y, okay? So then what we will have is 2y plus 3y will be equal to 25. Adding this up, we get 5y will be equal to 25, and that y is equal to 5. We then substitute back in y with the 4 minus x absolute value, and we get, these things are nations as always, and we get 4 minus x is equal to 5. Now, as always, we're just looking for, well, not as always, but in this question, we're just looking for the positive solution. And given that it's an absolute value, there are actually two solutions. One is positive and the other is negative. In other words, if 4 minus x is equal to 5, it works. However, if 4 minus x is also equal to negative 5, then the absolute value of negative 5 is equal to 5 and it still works. So what we can do is see which one actually is a positive solution. And getting this, we get x will be equal to negative 1, right, which is negative. So this one isn't the one that we're looking for. And then the other one is x will be equal to 9. And that's the one that we're looking for. So thus x is equal to 9. Okay, moving on to the next question, what we can do is, give me a second. Yeah. So we have the solution, we have the question, one solution to a given equation can be written as 1 plus square root of k, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? And this equation is x squared minus 2x plus minus 9 is equal to 0. So when I'm looking at the solution, 1 plus square root of k, it looks eerily like a more simplified version of our quadratic equation. Given that this is also quadratic, it kind of matches up. So do you guys remember what the quadratic equation is? It is x is equal to negative b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? Where a, b, and c are the coefficients of the terms. So what do we know are our coefficients? Well, we know a is equal to 1 because the coefficient of the x squared term is 1. We know that b is equal to negative 2 since the coefficient of the x term is negative 2, and you know that c is equal to negative 9. Okay, now we just plug it into this equation. We get x is equal to negative b, so negative 2 is plus positive 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 2 squared is 4, minus 4, so 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 9, all over 2a, which is 1 times 2, which is 2. Simplifying this, we get x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 36, because you have negative 4 times 1 times negative 9, the negatives cancel and it becomes a positive. 4 times 9 is 36. Simplifying that, you get 40. So 2 plus or minus the square root of 40 all over 2a, which is 2. Now, you might be wondering, well, we have 2 here in the denominator, and we don't even have a denominator. Well, how are we going to get rid of it? So what we're going to be doing is simplifying our discriminant. So 40 can be written as 4 times 10, right? So what we can do is turn square root 40 into the square root of 10 times the square root of 4. So this means that this will be equal to 2 square root 10. Okay, I know it might be a bit hard to see, so I'll move this out of the way. Okay, so what we can do now is that we have x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root, plus or minus 2 square root 10, all of that over 2. We can factor out the 2 and turn this into 2 times 1 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 2. And we can cancel out the 2's, and you're left with 1 plus or minus square root of 10. The solution that we're looking for is, 1 plus square root of 10. And it's asking for the value of k, and k is equal to 10, which is our answer. Now, I really didn't need to, simplify all of this. Once I figured out that it is the square root of 10 and we can simplify it further, I could immediately have stopped. But I'm showing this to you just to know how to solve it in case it asks what's the negative solution, or I don't know. Now, moving on to the next problem. It is saying, in the xy plane, a line with the equation 2y is equal to 4.5 intersects a parabola exactly 1 point. If the parabola has the equation y is equal to minus 4x squared plus bx, where b is a positive constant, what is the value of b? Okay, so there are multiple ways that you can solve this problem, okay? But here's how I'm going to show you it, okay? So you can solve this problem with the intuition of graphs, okay? So what you can do is take a graph, okay? And you can see that 2y is equal to 4.5, right? That means that y is equal to 2.25. So say this is y. Okay? If you have a parabola and it has the equation y is equal to minus 4x squared plus b, what do we know about it? Well, we know that since it's minus 4x, it's going to be facing downwards, kind of like this, instead of being upwards, right? If it was positive 4x, it would face upwards, but it's not. We also know that since it has no plus c, your y is going to cross your x-axis at the point x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0 as well. So it's going to pass through the origin. So that means that we know that our parabola is going to look something like this. Oh, and one last thing. We know that since it intersects the point, since it intersects the line 2y is equal to 4.5, exactly 1 point, we know that it's going to only touch it once, like that. So it's going to look something like this, the graph, right? What else do we know? We know that our intersection point our intersection point x is our maximum height, right? So we know that that means that, let me do this. Yeah, our x value is our maximum point, its equation is minus b over 2a. And then this will be equal to x, right? What we can do is then try to figure out where, if this is x, we can plug this into our equation for x squared, for x, and then try to substitute this in, right? So we know that y should be equal to 2.25, and this should be equal to minus 4 times minus b over 2a squared, so that's just b squared over 4a squared, right? I should probably put this in parentheses. Plus b times minus b over 2a, so that's minus b squared over 2a, right? And we know that a is simply negative 4, right? So this is negative 4 squared, so that's 16. So 16 times 4 is 64, right? And you have, this is also going to be equal to your negative 8, right? And negative 4 times 64 is negative 16. Yeah, negative 16. So you have b squared minus 16 plus the negative b squared over negative 8. These negatives cancel out, right? And we're left with minus b squared plus over 16 plus b squared over 8. And what we can do is simplify this a bit, and we're left with b squared over 8. How are we doing this? Well, we're taking the common denominator. This becomes 2b squared over 16 minus b squared over 16, and that becomes b squared over, b squared over 16. I actually made a mistake there. And that will be equal to 2.25, right? 16 times 2.25 is, give me a second to pull out my calculator. You do have a calculator in the chat, by the way. So this b squared is equal to 36, and thus b should be equal to plus or minus 6. Now, given that we are said that b is a positive constant, we can say we can remove this negative portion and just have positive 6 or just 6. And that is our answer. There are other ways to solve this problem, but personally I feel like this one's the easiest. If you have another method, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. It's just whichever one fits you the best. Now our next question is x minus y is equal to 1 and x plus y is equal to x squared minus 3. Which ordered pair is a solution to the system of equations above? So how are we going to be solving this? Well, first we have x minus y is equal to 1, right? So add a y to both sides and we get x. One second. X is equal to 1 plus y. And then what we can do is plug it in into our equation for y. Into our second equation. And we're left with 1 plus y. Wait, give me a second here. 1 plus y is equal to 1 plus y squared minus 3. We can simplify this out a bit and we get 1 plus 2y is equal, you can add a 3 to both sides too, and you get 4 plus 3y, plus 2y is equal to 1 plus 2y plus y squared. And we can turn this into a quadratic, so y squared is y squared minus 3, I believe. Yeah, y squared minus 3 is equal to 0. And what we can do is take y squared as equal to 3, and y would be equal to the square root of y, right? The square root of 3. And not only that, it would be plus or minus the square root of 3 as well. Now, looking here, remember this is our y, right? It's not our x. So what we can do is immediately remove our option choices C and D because they have nothing to do with square root of 3 at all, right? So we're left with choices A and B. Now what we need to do is plug our value of plus square root 3 and our value of negative square root of 3 into our first equation, right? So if we have plus square root of 3, give me a second. What we'd have is, actually let me spend that here itself. X would be equal to 1 plus SQRT, 1 plus square root 3. So 1 plus square root 3, and we have a positive 3, so our answer choice is A. Now I'll also look into B as well, just to make sure. I'll circle A, I'll also look into B though. So if we instead have that, we would have X is equal to 1 minus the square root of 3, right? And that's obviously not the right answer because although our y value might be correct, our x value is not. So we can cross out B as well, and we can move on. Let me clear everything. Now for our last question. If x is a solution to the given equation, what is a possible value of x plus 5? Okay, let's look here. There are two ways to solve this problem. I'll show you one, and I'll tell you the methodology to solve it the other way. But that one's up to you. So our first one is this. We know that 1 over x squared plus 10x plus 25, right? And that is equal to 4. Well, we know this is a quadratic. For those of you that are a bit more, I guess, practiced in solving a quadratic, we can immediately figure out this is equal to x plus 5 squared. Okay? X plus 5 squared is equal to 4. Right? And what we can do is take the reciprocal of both sides, and we get x plus 5 squared would be equal to 1 over 4. And x plus 5 thus would be equal to 1/2, right? That is definitely one way you can solve it, and I believe it's the quickest. Okay, so the other way is simply to do a bit more complicated. Wait, let me, one sec. Yeah, we'd multiply both sides by x squared plus 10x plus 25, and you'd be left with 1 would be equal to 4 times x squared plus 10x plus 25. And then we'd have to multiply everything, subtract 1, and then factor that, and then try to figure out what is x plus 5. I believe it's a way longer method though, so that's why I recommend just doing this. It gets you the right answer, and it's far quicker. It saves you time in this app. And that is how you solve this problem. Now, everyone, thank you so much. That's all for today's video, and have a great day.